We have a son, Luke, who is 5 years old, and a daughter, Noelle, who is almost 3. Both very energetic, fun-loving kids. We love them to pieces. They both have unique personalities. Luke is a very structured young man. We wonder if he's actually 5 sometimes. He definitely likes to know what's going on, what the day is going to hold, what the plans are. Noelle seems to be a little bit more free-flowing.
She's a free spirit.
But very energetic, very loving.
In 2002, I was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure. So basically that meant that my body wasn't working properly, and our only options at that time were given to us initially was to do traditional adoption or egg donation. And we had probably been trying to get pregnant for a few months when we got the diagnosis. So we hadn't been on a long journey at that point. We got a diagnosis pretty quickly and were educated about it right away. So as far as creating our family, the doctors just said, your first option really is egg donation. And then, you could also pursue traditional adoption. And each one of those options just didn't seem to sit well with us. It wasn't that we preferred one over the other or didn't. It wasn't a right fit for us. And it probably happened within the first couple weeks of getting diagnosed. I was speaking with a coworker who had gone through multiple IVF attempts and eventually ended up doing traditional adoption. And so I spoke with her a little bit at work, and she said, I heard about this radio program where I heard these people talking about embryo adoption, and it's the Snowflake program. And that's really all the information we had. We've since met those people. That was a really special time for us, I think. I think back to that time, and that was a real dark time. And usually I don't get so emotional about it, but yeah, when she said that, standing there at work, and I came home and I was so excited. I was like, this felt like this was a good fit for us, and told Brian right away. We went on the internet and we got some materials from Focus on the Family. They were really helpful in connecting us with the right people. And when we read the materials, I remember Brian reading through it, and he put it down and he said, this is for us. And it was like it just clicked for us. It wasn't something that we really, we didn't have a process where we had to really think about it. I mean, we spent a lot of time thinking about it later, but initially it was the process that fit for us. It made sense. When we were educated and we found out how many families there were that had remaining embryos that were, in freezers and were just waiting, and they didn't really have a lot of options. We thought, well, why should we pursue egg donation and make more embryos when, we can have this option and, have hopefully a similar success. And it moved forward from there. So we didn't go through failed IVF attempts. We didn't go down that road. We knew immediately that really wasn't for us. There were multiple, I think, reasons why we were so drawn to embryo adoption. One of them was the idea of doing a donor situation and creating so many more embryos. Usually in that situation, there is some control, but sometimes you don't have all of that control. And sanctity of life is something that's really important to us. And so we didn't feel comfortable, going down the road of doing egg donor and having all of these embryos created and not being able to complete the process with every one of them. And that's changed a lot in the last couple of years, but that was one of the initial things, was that there was an opportunity for us to be of service to another family with remaining embryos. The other thing was that we would have some sort of connection for our children, hopeful children at that time, that we would be able to tell them, if they had any genetic siblings, who they genetically were connected to. And that was a real draw as well. We had the option with some of the physicians we spoke with. They said, first we'll pursue egg donation. If that doesn't work, then you can do embryo donation. We have some embryos that we could connect you with. And in that case, there wasn't very much information that they could provide in that setting. It was very similar to embryo adoption, but all you got was kind of a notebook with information in it, or a file with information. With embryo adoption, there was a little bit more opportunity for more information and for that to continue over the long term. Because eventually our story will become our children's stories, and it's their story to tell, and they need to move and grow. And we wanted to provide the opportunity, if they needed to be able to, make connections with those people, if that was what part of their journey needed to be. And so we want to keep that door open for them. So that was another thing that embryo adoption was seemed so appealing to us. And then I think lastly, just the opportunity to actually, go through pregnancy. When we took responsibility of those embryos, in total it was 16 by the time we were finished. It was our responsibility from the very beginning as their parents, even if they were still frozen. And whether that pregnancy was successful, whether it resulted in a child with special needs, whether it resulted in a child that didn't have special needs, regardless, we were taking responsibility from that from the very beginning. And even though we couldn't control it, there was the appeal with embryo adoption that we could choose to, I could choose to drink caffeine or not drink caffeine. I could make sure that I was on prenatal vitamins, all of those things. So there was that level of responsibility that we felt that we wanted to be able to contribute. And so I think that would probably be the third reason that embryo adoption was so appealing to us and really pushed us in that direction.
I was going to say, we had both of our children are from two separate families, and we have two different aspects of communication with them from the very beginning. So we have friends through the program that have they've extended their entire family through this adoption process and have become best friends with the donating family. And then also there are people that have no contact. They made the donation for somebody to have a family, and that was the extent of it. Both of our families are different. We have one family who is fairly involved in sending communication back and forth, who have other kids from the same genetic makeup. And then one of our families is a little bit more low key, where we do send some correspondence back and forth, but they are not as interested in, not that they're not interested in the child, but they are comfortable with the donation of the embryos that they made, and have kind of left it for the most part like that. But yet they have been very gracious in their correspondence and their support of both us and our kids, so that we have photos to share of other genetic siblings that they have from another family, and that they know their stories, that they started out as embryos that we adopted. Our family is complete at this point. We are very blessed with two wonderful children. Debbie says that if we ever have another one, it has to come potty trained.
Yes.
So we may have to pursue other options. But at this point, we have done our journey as far as embryo adoption.
Embryo donation and adoption. share the hope. Learn more at embryoadoption.org.